We will start now with the virtual information session for the Steward Leadership 25 Award. And thank you everyone for taking the time to drop by on this information session. Through this webinar, what we will do is give an overview as to what SL25 is. We will also briefly share what the criteria is, and Abigail will be walking us through the application form. If you have any questions throughout the entire session, feel free to just send it across and we will get to it either at that point of time in the Q&A section of Teams, or we will get to it at the end of the session. Yeah. Okay. So starting off, who are we? Who is the face behind the SL25? We are Stewardship Asia Center, and we are a nonprofit dedicated to accelerating leadership action for business, environmental, and societal prosperity. So what we do is that we advocate for this concept called steward leadership, and we do it through 4 different channels. We do it through in-person engagements, online engagements, research and insights, and finally, education and advisory. So where does SL25 lie? I would say that it will lie across all 4 because it impacts all 4 channels, but predominantly it's the in-person and online engagement. And for SAC, we are part of the Temasek Trust ecosystem, and we have a shared purpose of building a better future for every generation. Yep. So moving on to what steward leadership is, because steward leadership is the foundation of what SL25 is all about. Steward leadership is the genuine desire and persistence to create a collective better future for stakeholders, society, future generations, and the environment. So what does this mean? For businesses, it means that it means to pursue a purpose which aims to create win-win-win prosperity, wherein employees, shareholders, the business, environment, and society all at large thrive together. So what is SL25? SL25 is an annual award. We've been holding this for 5 years now. It's an annual award highlighting the 25 viable solutions for society and environment within Asia and the Pacific. So this means the projects would have to be implemented in Asia and the Pacific regions. Past winning projects include those from DBS Bank, Ayala Corporation, and Social Enterprise Noburo. So from what you can see here, SL25 is an award for organizations of all sizes and types. So far, we've gotten more than 400 applications across 34 geographies and 100 winning stories. So in terms of eligibility, if you were to submit a project, like what would constitute a viable or successful submission to SL25, it would be a solution that is viable by solving an environmental or social problem. So what this means is that to submit a solution, it cannot be an overall sustainability policy. You cannot be uploading your entire impact report, your sustainability report, and you would be constrained by word count. So please use your word count in the most effective way possible by providing information on a specific project that solves a specific problem. A solution that is viable would be that it would have to be either profitable or financially viable. And if your project has not achieved profitability or financial viability yet, no worries, as long as you have revenue generating activities, or if you have a concrete plan to be financially viable with quantitative evidence, and you can show that you're not wholly dependent on funds and grants, you would be eligible for SL25. So the last point is that it would have to be a solution that solves an environmental or social problem. So what this means is that it would either have to coincide with the UN SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and it has to contribute to a collective better future. All solutions must have evidence of impact within the qualifying period of 1st January 2024 to 1st Jan 2026. And the intent of this is so that the impact of the solution is recent and not something that has occurred maybe 10 years ago. Yeah. So I guess the big question in everyone's mind is, why should I apply for SL25? Like, what do I stand to gain if I do win the award? And the biggest thing about SL25 is that you gain access to SAC's network. You are invited to in-person networking events such as the Steward Leadership Summit, which is our annual flagship event, and it sees about 300 attendees every year. This network consists of business leaders, government leaders, and even investors. So you'll have access to this network and you'll be invited to all events related to SL25. You will also have an opportunity to amplify your story. This means through content opportunities, for example. And you can see some of the examples at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen where we have done interviews with CEOs of SL25 winners. We've also gone to countries For example, in Indonesia, where we filmed a feature film or feature video about the project in action. So one example would be Rise. And what we do is that we post it on socials and post it on YouTube channels and share it with the wider global network. SL25 is also covered by regional and global media coverage. As you can see from some examples, some of the media sites that have covered SL25 are CNA, Straits Times, The Edge, Business Times, etc. And finally, you would also gain opportunities for worldwide recognition. So one example would be the World Economic Forum's Gaia Awards. One of our winners, Power Up Tech, have also made the top 15 finalists for the Gaia Awards. So that's something that's very admirable. We will also share the stories of winning solutions on Stewardship Commons, which is our global digital hub for all things stewardship. Okay, so for the partner ecosystem, the SL25 is jointly curated by SAC, INSEAD Hoffman Institute, WTW, our due diligence partner, and Straits Times, our media partner. We have about 13 supporting partners across Asia and the Pacific, and you can see them all below here. Next. Thank you. SL25 winners, you may see the SL25, and you may read more about SL25 winners on the Stewardship Commons website. But as you can see here, our winning stories consist of large, small, and medium organizations and social enterprises. So we will ensure that the SL25 list has a fair representation of all organization sizes. So what sets SL25 apart would be our key criteria. As you can see here, this is the judging criteria that our judging panel will also use to assess all submissions coming in. We look at materiality, intentionality, financial viability, impact, whether your solution goes beyond regulations, if it's an innovative solution, and what are your future plans moving forward. So as you can see, the criteria is based on the Steward Leadership Compass, which is our foundation for steward leadership. And you can read more and learn more about it on our website, but my colleague Abigail will walk you through it later at the second half of this info session. So who would be judging SL25? Here is our panel of judges. As you can see, they come across the region and they come from varying industries. So for example, they come from academia, government, non-governmental organizations. So your submission is in great hands. So what is the application process? It is a very straightforward and simple process. The first step would be to look at the judging criteria. Just maybe read through what is being sought after or what the judges are looking for in the website. And the second step would be to complete the application form on the SL25 website. So there is a Apply Now button that you can click on to access the application form. And once you submit your application form, you will receive a confirmation email just to show that you have successfully submitted your application. And for the fourth step, if necessary, if there's any need for us to clarify any big claims, we will reach out to you again in April or May to verify information in the application form. I would say we hope for all applications to provide as much information as possible, as much quantitative evidence as possible, and if your application has any big claims, for example, like zero poverty, zero waste, please do provide quantitative evidence to back up these claims. We will try our best to verify information such that the application is comprehensive for the judges, but we might not be able to reach out to everyone. So on the first step, please make sure you provide all information you would like to present. Yep. For the timeline, we will have another virtual info session on 12th of March. If you feel like you have any questions that you would like to ask, maybe live, so feel free to sign up for that as well if you like. Applications will close on the 31st of March, so the end of next month. And from April to August, we would have our judges shortlisting the 25 winners. And in September, that is when you would be notified on your application status. So if you do win SL25, you would be invited to the SL25 Unveiling Award Ceremony at Steward Leadership Summit, which is our annual flagship event that I brought up earlier in this presentation. So that would occur late October 2026. Okay, now I'll hand it off to Abigail.
Okay, thanks, Jean. So now I'm just going to run you through the actual application process on the Stewardship Commons platform. So for people who have not applied to SL25 before or who have not been on Stewardship Commons, these are a few first steps you have to take before you start. So you will see the URL on the top of your screen. If you head over to this website, you'll see the landing page for the application form for SL25. So before you click on the apply button, what I would highly recommend is you create a Stewardship Commons account first. So you just have to log in to the Stewardship Commons platform, create an account, and then you can apply, because either way you will have to have the account before you can start anything. So you'll see this page when you first start, and then just go ahead. And then you will see the overview of the judging criteria like Jane mentioned. So if you look at the criteria here, there's basically about seven different criteria over here. And the bullet point below basically describes the ideal state of what the top application for each of the judging criteria looks like. So I would suggest understanding each individual criteria before starting your application, and looking through the PDF version of the application form before you start, just so that you can gather the relevant information before going through the entire process. So the PDF application form can be found on the landing page. So I'm going back about 2 slides. So it's on the landing page. If you scroll down to the bottom of this page, you will be able to find the PDF version of the application form. Okay, so for the application form, you'll run through like the nitty-gritty things first, like the contact details, checking through the basic eligibility criteria. So just to note that the contact details provided here will be the main channel through which we will communicate with you. So just make sure that you provide a contactable, a valid phone number as well as a valid work email address. Okay, and then again, all these necessary details. Okay, so moving to the organization details, as you know, SL25, we always emphasize that we do not endorse entire organizations, and we only accept applications for specific solutions or projects. So here's just a background of the organization that is running this solution. So again, it doesn't matter if you're a for-profit organization, not-for-profit, a charity, a foundation, an NGO, it doesn't matter. So just indicate the one that best represents your organization. Okay, and for this last question on what does your organization do, I strongly encourage you to put it down in as simple terms as possible to detail what product or service your organization is offering. Okay, so moving on to the meat of the application form. So this is where you delve into the actual solution that you are submitting. So you go through the solution name, the specific social and environmental problem you are addressing, and the year in which the solution was implemented, and so on and so forth. So you'll note that certain fields have word limits. So we strongly encourage that. I mean, you have to stick to the word limits because the system won't allow you to enter anything in. But it's basically for the purposes of the final article that Stewardship Commons will publicize your, how they will publicize your solution. So we will take the information from here essentially. Okay, and the last part, and I would think is the most important part for this particular page, it is describing your solution. So again, you only have 100 words, and I would strongly suggest basically introducing your solution, the who, what, where, the who, what, when, where, why, how of the solution. And I would also say what would be helpful is we understand that every community or every country runs with their own specific context. And a lot of times, the solutions that are effective may have to navigate certain maybe political or social or economic circumstances that may not be able to, that may be particularly difficult. So this is an area where you can add this particular extra information to complement the rest of your application form. So the reason why I'm saying this is because the who, what, when, where, why, how of the solution they will also be addressed in the later part of the application form, but we do not have a space for you to elaborate on maybe certain information that you would like us to know about. But again, this application form we read alone. The judges will judge this application form in its individually. They will not be having access to the internet, and they won't be able to Google your solution. So just remember that it's important you set a certain piece of context and to put it in as simple terms as possible what the solution is. Okay, so going down to the judging criteria, right? So if you look at the purple headers, it says purpose and values, and throughout the application form, each purple header will correspond to the individual judging criteria. But before we begin, and just to reiterate what Jane had said earlier, please include quantitative evidence as best as you can to substantiate general claims, especially bigger claims like net zero, zero waste, poverty free, more absolute statements that will require some form of evidence. So again, unverifiable claims or data information will not be considered. And also, I just want to highlight, please refrain from including links in your submission. Yeah, the judges will only assess whatever is included in the application form. Okay, so for purpose and values, yeah, we do want to know what the solution, what the objective of your solution is. And the reason why purpose and values is chosen as an individual criteria is because of the essence of steward leadership, right? For those who are familiar with SAC's work, actually the heart of steward leadership is intentionality. At the end of the day, maximizing profit by maximizing purpose, or basically doing well by doing good, it is difficult, and we acknowledge that. And the best solutions and the best applications that manage to marry profit and purpose are the ones that have chosen to do so. They said, today I will take that first step. And so intentionality is a very important thing, and that's what we are trying to draw out here. So what are you trying to do with the solution? What problem are you trying to solve? And again, for the second question, we want to ask how the solution's objective aligns with the organization's purpose. So how relevant is this particular solution to your business? Because at the end of the day, if a solution is not financially viable, it will not stand the test of time, and you will not be able to maximize the impact for over a longer period of time. And so that's the thinking behind these questions. Again, moving on, I guess another point, yeah, intentionality again, right? So why was the project implemented? And what was the motivation behind starting this project? So this takes on a more personal angle to it as to, yeah, so why do you decide to embark on this project? So again, stick to the 200-word limit. And what we have done differently this year is also to require a video response. So this can be from maybe the project manager or your founder or whoever, the person who created this idea. Please also make sure that the information you write down and the information you speak about do not conflict. In the case of any conflict, we will take the text as the final piece of information. Okay. And then the second point is about the third point, is about financial sustainability. So again, as we said, financial viability is important for a solution to maximize its impact in the long term. So here, what we want you to do is to explain the solution's financial model. So essentially, where does the money go and how does the money come back? So what does the cycle look like? If the financial numbers are confidential, you don't have to share them. Just draw out the whole cycle for us. Yeah, money, how does the money go out and how does the money come in? I think that's really what we want to know. And to the best of your abilities, we do still at the end of the day strongly encourage quantitative evidence, at least some ballpark figure or maybe some percentage numbers, just to let us have a better idea of how viable the solution is. And again, for this particular section, we also require a video response, just in case like there are things that it's harder to explain over text. But again, fundamentally, please make sure that there's no conflict between the answers. Okay, and for impact, again, we have to achieve profit through purpose, right? And so again, explain how your solution has improved the state of the environment or society. I'm sorry, I'm noticing a discrepancy here. We said Jan 2023, but I think we mean Jan 2024. We will update this application form, so don't worry about that. So again, please give us quantitative evidence as much as possible. For example, how many people have you impacted, or how much carbon emissions have been reduced, etc. And another tip that we will give is to provide perspective. So absolute numbers are, of course, important, but ideally we want to know the proportion of impact, for example. So if you're a small organization making a big impact, how big that thing is relative to how much capabilities you have also, right? So I think that's what we want from this question. Okay, and going beyond regulations is the next one. Again, please note the 150-word limit. So how does a solution go beyond regulations or industry standards? So the idea behind this question is that we believe that steward leadership goes far beyond what is mandated. And so, although rules and regulations are important, they are important, but they do still set a minimum standard. But is it enough for us as humanity to take urgent action and to take action at a scale that is necessary to solve environmental and social problems? That's another question, right? And so that's the spirit behind this particular question. We do want to know, how do you go above and beyond what is required? And again, please remember that the judges are not familiar with it. Let's just assume that the judges are not familiar with your organization. They are not familiar with your industry. And so they may not be familiar with the regulations that govern your particular industry. So please again provide some form of context for this. So state exactly what regulation have you gone upon or have you gone beyond, and what industry standard have you chosen to go above and beyond as well. Okay, we're coming to the end, don't worry. So for innovation, again, marrying profit and purpose is no easy feat. And to do that successfully and to do it in a financially viable way does require a lot of innovation and a lot of creativity. And so that's where we are trying to get with this question. So if your solution is particularly innovative, it can be technological, scientific, social, etc. Even the way you earn the money can be different from the norm. So just highlight those aspects of the solution. And I think we have also received applications where they actually patented a certain innovation. I think that's a very concrete form of having a stamp, right, that says, okay, this is creative. You don't have to, but if you have, just feel free to highlight that. Okay, and the last one about future plans. So again, we do want, the idea behind steward leadership is sustainable profitability, right? So the sustainability of a solution in terms of the temporal element is very, very crucial. So what are the solutions' short and long-term goals? For example, in terms of scale, in terms of replicability, maybe I pilot a project here in Singapore, but I want to spread it over to Europe or whatever, like other plans for that, just let us know. And also, these goals should ideally follow the SMART format. I'm sure everyone knows what that is. So just please be as specific as you can, especially in relation to short-term goals. And so just now earlier, Jane said, when she talks about financial viability, profitability is the gold standard, right? But again, we are not saying that if you are supported by funds and grants, it should not apply. We do still encourage that. But for these specific solutions that are still supported by funds and grants, just let us know how you plan to be self-sustaining in the future. Again, specificity following the SMART goal format will be very, very helpful. Okay, so this is a new section that we have added to the application form this year. This is actually just for our internal reference, right? Because again, SL25 is Steward Leadership 25. It is obviously anchored in Steward Leadership, which is again undergirded by the stewardship values of interdependence, long-term view, ownership mentality, creative resilience, and ethical integrity. So in your solution, just detail and explicitly say, okay, this is how, for example, interdependence is shown, or this is how long-term view is shown. So if you click on the link to the stewardship values, you'll find a more elaborate explanation of each of the individual values. So yeah, so I think that's it. This, don't worry about this. It is not part of the judging criteria. It's just more for our information and something that we're experimenting with this year. Yeah. And again, if you do have any questions about this, just feel free to reach out to us. Okay, so for the last part of the application form will be your supporting documents. So please attach supporting images of the project specifically. So anything that's not related to the project will not be taken into consideration, just for us and for the judges to get a better idea of what the solution looks like in practice. So please, a maximum of 3 files will be used. And also the idea for these files is if you do win SL25, we will also include these pictures in your story that we will publicize. Yeah, so please make sure they're high resolution as well, because we will also use these assets, for example, at the award ceremony where it will be shown on a huge screen in a ballroom. Okay, you're also allowed to, we also encourage you to attach a supporting video. Again, this is optional. So if you have a video made of your project, just feel free to share the link to us. Again, it has to be relevant to the project. And the last one, if you have any supporting documents, for example, a collection of evidence for the specific claims that you have made in the application form, please feel free to attach that as well. But going back to what Jane said earlier, what we do not encourage is, for example, your entire sustainability report, your impact report, your annual report. So those are things that will not be considered. It has to be very specific to the particular project. Okay, and then after this, I think you're done. So just read the terms and conditions and then submit the form. Okay, so if you don't complete your application form in one sitting, don't worry. That's why you also create an account on Stewardship Commons so that you can retrieve any drafts of your application form. One thing I forgot to say, please, at the bottom of every page in the application form, for example, okay, maybe after this future plans page, if you scroll down, you will actually see a save draft button. So for every page that you finish filling out your answers, please press save draft, just to avoid any unnecessary repetition of like filling out the form again. Yeah, so that's important. Please remember that. Okay, so let's say you save your draft and you didn't submit it in one go, right? So just head back to the Stewardship Commons website, click on the silhouette in the top right-hand corner, and you will see this tab called My SL25 Application. So that's where you'll retrieve whatever ongoing drafts you have here. And yeah, also one thing I wanted to highlight is you cannot edit your applications after submission. So just make sure that before you press that submit button, you look through everything one last time, make sure everything's correct, all the information is there, and then you submit. Okay, I feel like I've belabored this point throughout the entire presentation, but again, please make sure that you provide accurate quantitative evidence. Qualitative evidence is also encouraged as well because we understand the nature of certain solutions do have that. So, but just make sure that they're accurate. And especially for the sections which require a written form and a video form, please ensure that there's no conflicting information. Okay, yeah, also given the word limit, you have to answer the questions concisely. I think that's a given. But I also do want to highlight that you do not have to disclose sensitive and confidential information. If your solution makes the list, whatever information you have shared in the application form will be shared publicly. So, yeah, just please share as much as necessary for your application, but do not disclose confidential information. Okay, so before we close out the presentation and proceed to Q&A, we will share the deck, yes. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel. We can send a link soon after when we have that ready. Again, yes, you can apply if your organization is a charity, non-profit foundation, etc. As long as it is solving an environmental or social problem, go ahead. There are no submission fees at all throughout the entire process. And just now, earlier Jane mentioned that we created feature videos of the individual solutions and we went down, for example, to Indonesia to film those solutions. They didn't have to pay a single cent as well. Yeah, so it's completely free in the meaning of the word. You can also submit more than one application if you would like, but you can only submit a maximum of 3 per organization. You can only submit a maximum of 3 solutions, and a maximum of 1 will be chosen. So let's say I submit 3, only 1 will be chosen if any of them wins SL25. So again, I cannot tell you exactly what information or documents you will need before starting your application, but what I can say is please review the PDF version of the application form if that's easier for you, and then you can gather the necessary information before starting your application. Okay, so just a gentle reminder that applications close on the 31st of March. So just feel free to just take a look at the application form and maybe even start gathering the information whenever. Yeah.